Hello.
Hey everyone, how's it going?
Hello. Going well.
All right, let's go ahead and get started. Pretty simple social discussion today. I think actually as I was going through this, I might have asked this before, so my apologies. But curious what everyone's favorite season is and why. Very simple. For me, I like spring because the winters are super cold and windy here, and usually by February, I'm just like over that 3 month period of time where it's just gray skies, below zero most of the days, and then with wind chill, like we get to like negative, I don't know, -20, -40 Fahrenheit.
40.
Yeah, oh, Fahrenheit. So I don't know. I think that's. Let's find what that is.
Oh, I see.
It is -40. Yeah, I remember now. Yeah, so that's where it tipped over. I feel like I was talking with someone about this. I was like, oh, this is the cool point where Fahrenheit and Celsius equal.
Oh.
So -40 Celsius wind chill is the same as -40 Fahrenheit. Yeah, it gets really cold here, and mostly due to the wind. So spring, I'm like ready for non-frigid weather. Remy, what about you?
Yeah, for me, spring is definitely the best season, for many reasons, actually. Winter is usually like dark and wet, so it's not, from my point of view, it's not the best. And why I like going like skiing and all of that, it's not like it's still not the best part, I think, of the year. And also because like in the summer, there's so many mosquitoes here that and it's also so hot that it's not actually the best season. And in spring, we already have long days, good weather, and not that many mosquitoes, but they start to arrive now, so it's yeah. And also because there's way less tourists in the spring compared to summer. So we'll see actually this summer how it will go because of the COVID-19. But yeah, usually it's very crowded. So yeah, for me, spring is really the best here. Yeah. What about you, Albert?
There's only one season here.
Hopefully it's a good one.
Okay, in general, like towards the end of the year and beginning of the year, it's cooler. It's more wet rather than cool. It's wet and cold. It can rain like over 2 days nonstop, 2 or 3 days nonstop. Yeah, and then in May to September, it's usually very hot and dry. But yeah, so I still prefer the wet season, I would say, because it's cooler and it's more windy. Yeah. If I were to choose one of the 4 seasons, probably spring or fall. But again, because to me, it's from a perspective of like, where can I go in these places, in places that have these seasons. So I guess it depends on like where or which country or which latitude it is. It will be different. So like, I don't really know how to answer this.
Yeah, I think it's pretty
Zhen Xin?
similar here. Just like it feels like winter and summer and something in the middle. Like in fall and spring, it's more like they are constantly changing. Like it's just it feels like when in winter it's more cold, and after winter it's constantly changing, and through to summer, and summer is very hot, and then back to something that it's constantly changing, and then it becomes winter. And I really don't like weather unstable weather because sometimes I need to wear more clothes and sometimes I don't, and it's annoying and easy get sick. So I would prefer summer or winter, either way, because they are more stable. Like in winter, it's usually colder, and in summer, it's usually warmer. And yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing. I did not realize there's like one general season for for all of you, or for some of you. So that's pretty cool. So few announcements. The first is the engineering key review is this week. I think I've shared this before, but this is usually where Mac or one of the QEMs, I think I might do this one, review the KPIs with Eric and the rest of engineering leadership. The main item to note, Mac usually pre-records a video for this, and I'll share that in the team channel when he does. The one thing to note is there was a pretty significant increase in cost per pipeline from where we were towards the start of last week to now. That ties into the next one, where I did some analysis on this yesterday to figure out why this has increased. I created the issue that I linked to for the increase in average cost per pipeline. It seemed like there's builds that are like going 10 times the maximum threshold, which I hadn't really seen before, and then in a higher frequency of runner or timeout errors than we had encountered previously. So there's some details towards the bottom of the issue. Really, the top part is like me just like mentally like going through what I'm finding. But the bottom has some good summary on it. I asked Tomasz and Camille if they're aware of anything that would have caused those, and we'll see what we hear back. Last announcement is I do want to encourage everyone to make sure they're taking the time to step away and set like firm boundaries between work and life. I think this is really needed even more with the pandemic. You know, last week was a week that I found myself like really overloaded with stress in general. And the days when I didn't sleep well or like checked in with family, I found that my quality of work suffered and just my like my overall mindset and stress suffered. So later in the week I tried to do better sleeping, and I thought that really helped. Wanted to reiterate that message here for the whole team as well. Any other announcements anyone wants to add? I can note as we go in. Awesome.
No.
Okay. One of the things I was considering after last week's meeting where Mech attended is rescheduling one team meeting per month at least, like pushing it back a little bit so it's easier for him to attend if he would like. And I proposed an hour and a half later. Albert and Genshin, it seems like just moving it would be good in general. Genshin, am I reading that right? If we just move it an hour later, that would work in
For
general?
me, either way is fine. Not
Would
much
it work?
difference.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Remy, you okay if we just move the meeting to an hour later in general?
Yeah, for me it's yeah, it's okay, and it's actually even better because I tend to kind of have my lunch at this time usually. So it's, but yeah, anyway, I mean it's in the middle of my day, so it's fine. Definitely
Okay.
fine either way.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll just push it an hour later then for every meeting, and we'll see how that new time works. I think that'll be better for Mac. I think he would like to attend once a month. Is kind of, you know, making it earlier than or later than 5 a.m. his time would. I think he would appreciate that. So, yep. All right, over to reviewer roulette. I think Remy, you added the comment here. Thank you. I was just a little like I was looking to update the some of the reviewer roulette issues that have kind of come up lately, and the one specifically to use time zone that came up in the retro. I wanted to make sure I was clear on the plan or how we would use Slack. And thanks for linking to that comment. In general, was my summary there correct then? We'll use will like compute a JSON and publish it with pages and then read that in by reviewer roulette instead of reading it from the website.
Yeah, that was my idea, basically. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I will get the those 2 issues updated, or at least note that plan somewhere so that it's out of the comment if it's, and maybe I missed it if it was already there. But thank you for clarifying. For me, you want to skip down to? I took the next one and just asked in Slack since Mark was not here.
Yeah. Sure. Yes. So yeah, the last one, we had a problem with the cache and artifacts related problem after we optimized the setup Tencent job. And yeah, that's because previously we would pass the Gitali gems in the artifacts, so that the Gitali gems would always be there in the jobs that need those. And now that we've changed that to put the gems in the cache instead of in the artifacts, like it's the best practice with the cache is to cache the project dependencies and to use artifacts for actual things that are built from one job and that another job is consuming. So yeah, that led to a problem when you had an empty cache, mostly, like in a few cases that could happen. So yeah, we fixed that this morning, but it was just, so I just put this item to recap that, and also in general to pinpoint that Gitali's setup and install is quite convoluted, and with like over the years there have been new things added to like work around a few problems that we had, and maybe it's a good time to like take a step back and see if we can improve that. Yeah, I don't know, I think Genshin, you put an item here.
Yeah. Now we are trying to use cache key files, cache key files to as the cache key. So every time when the dependent log file change, we just use a new cache. And I start to wonder if this is the right approach, because that means we essentially use a new cache when there's a version change. And this means we will have a lot of different caches. For example, when there are 10 merge requests updated dependency, then we will have 10 cache. And the cache will actually never be stale, because if we change a version, then we use a new cache. And if we don't change a version, then of course it's up to date. So it's all or nothing. And this is much different than the approach we used to use. We used to have just one cache, and when there's a new version, we still use the old cache and install new gens and use all other old gens from the cache and put the new gens into the cache. So the cache will grow over time. And the advantage of this is that we only have one cache. And this cache might be very large if we don't clean it up, but there's only one cache. And the other problem with this one giant cache is that restoring and uploading cache can be very slow. So in the end, I'm not sure which approach would be better. Like we use a lot of different cache or just one single big cache.
So a few things here. So I think we use the clean flag when running bundle install, and I think the goal is to clean up the gems that aren't used anymore. So I think the cache growing problem should be solved by that. So that's one point. Another point about having many caches because of the cache keys that are now based on gemfile.log and the Gitali version file. I think that's yeah. Basically what ideally we should. What I see is that we are consumers of GitLab CI. And that's up to like infrastructure to clean caches that are old or something like that. I mean, we don't, as users of GitLab CI, we don't have a way to say caches that are older than X days should be removed. Like, yeah, it's an infrastructure concern, but we could definitely like get in touch with them and just ask, because I don't know what's the strategy right now. Does the cache is like regularly cleaned up when we hit a volume or a date, like an age? I don't know. That's a good point. We should probably check that with infrastructure. And yes, for the rest, I think there's one thing is that I think before we optimized the job, we were already updating the cache every time the setup test env job was running. So that means that if you change the gems, even in your own merge request, it could update the cache that was shared for every pipelines because of the fixed key. So yeah, so I think maybe one thing that could be ideal is to only update the cache on master, and that would be easier if the rules keyword would support doing that, like on master, change the cache policy. That would be ideal. That way we have the best of both worlds. Like we have one, like we limit the number of caches because it would only update on master, and we could even use a fixed key or not. That's another problem. But we would also have good performance because we wouldn't update the cache on merge requests. And most merge requests don't update the dependencies, so that would be fine. And even if they do that, just installing a few gems is not very long.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that would be ideal. So I would really like to have this, like the feature to set cache policy per rules. That would be great.
Right. If we can do that, then whatever we do with fixed cache or not, it doesn't really matter that much. Is there a way that we can know how much do we spend on cache? About cost money?
Not that I'm aware of, because I think it's all lumped in one general GitLab CI bucket in GCP.
Okay.
We can ask infrastructure. Like there's no harm in asking.
Yeah,
Sure.
you should definitely get in touch. Like ask them what's the strategy in like cleaning up cache, if there are any, and yeah, what's the cost, and is there like best practices from their point of view that we should implement? I mean, I think like using keys in the using files in the cache key, I think it's a good practice, and it's also dog fooding. But yeah, we should ask them.
I like the feature, but we can only put 2 files into it if it's quite limited.
Yeah.
And also, if we put more files into it, then it also means we easily invalidate the cache.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
So one thing I kind of want to call attention to, I found an issue. I wasn't sure if there's a better one for your suggestion on setting cache policy with rules. Let's find whatever issue or create one for that and add internal customer.
There's
the title. The title isn't very good, but
yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think this isn't the single source.
That's what I was thinking.
But I think it's duplicated a lot. But yeah, I can find it. It's I think there's an epic to improve rules in general. But yeah, I can find it.
Okay. Yeah. I think I know. I was hoping Chrome would bring it up if I just epic rules in the bar. I know I've been on that epic before. Okay. Yeah, link to it, and if you don't mind, just add internal customer to that issue. I couldn't find a better one relatively quickly.
I do recall there's one.
Good discussion though. Where should we ask infrastructure? Should we just infra lounge or just create an issue and ask for those questions? Because I think those would be good things to look at. Can we identify how much we're spending on cache to see how it's changing as we change our caching policy? And then are there best practices that we should look that they suggest? Maybe let's start. I think in the handbook they have like a team issue tracker that we can just raise in because it's not urgent. I don't. Okay. So I'll create an issue to ask those questions.
Cool. Thank you.
And then, thanks for finding that issue, Remy. I think we should maybe close the other one if it overlaps with this one as well. But
yeah, close it as duplicate.
Thank you. The one I did want to go back up if we're kind of done on that question, because I wanted to get clarity into one of the other points you had in here, Remy. When you said investigate if we can simplify the Gitaly setup install, was that the setup install within the GitLab pipeline or something that we need to work with the Gitaly team to investigate?
We may need to get in touch with them to understand some things, but yeah, I was mostly speaking about the GitLab pipeline side. So basically in Gitaly, there's this Ruby sidecar, which is like there's the Go project, and there's a Ruby project, which is which implements gRPC methods that are for some reason like impossible or hard to implement in Go. So we still need this Ruby sidecar project, and I asked like 2 weeks ago, I think, about that, and yeah, there's no plan to get rid of it in the near future. So we still need. So that's really the the annoying part is that in the GitLab pipelines, we need to install these gems. And in the past, we had problems, like we tried to install all the gems from GitLab and Gitali in the same vendor Ruby folder, so that if both projects were using the same gems, we just install them once, and that introduced problems. But maybe now it's not a problem anymore, or maybe the problem wasn't this, but maybe it was another thing that we may have fixed in the meantime. So maybe we should try again. Basically.
Yeah.
Okay. Get a new look and yeah.
Okay. Can you create an issue just to track that?
Yeah, definitely.
When you get time. Great. Okay. Cool. The one thing I did want to call out, I didn't have this in the agenda, is it does look like some of the changes for cost per pipeline, so like the FOSS removal, when I was looking at the cost that, like, I added a chart for daily costs per pipeline, it was down to 167 for yesterday to close the day. So that looked pretty good. Fingers crossed that those results hold.
Yeah, I've seen that. That's right.
Okay, so cool. That was it for me. Anything else that anyone would like to discuss? Awesome. Well, it is breakfast time. I'm not sure if you can hear the noise in the background, so I better get going and get some food for the kids. So I will see everyone later. Thank you for the great discussion and time. Catch you later in the week.
Thanks. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Bye.